Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored. Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Well, hello. Welcome to another Uncensored podcast. My name is Miguel Fuller.
I'm Holly O'Connor. Do we start like that normally?
No, we don't. There's literally...
We start the show that way normally.
Yeah, there's no traditional way. It's all
what are
just
we doing?
Whatever. I don't know. So we're live. If you're listening to this, we're live on the Miguel and Holly YouTube channel, on the Miguel and Holly Facebook page. And I'm sorry, I'm just super excited because I feel like the past 2 weeks... Hey, Zenda. The technology I've figured out lately for stuff.
Yeah.
I was able to edit one of our segments to put it on Instagram to make it a little bit faster.
Right.
Did that. And then you can also catch the full show replay and Blown Off as their own separate podcast on iTunes and now officially on Spotify.
Fantastic. People like the whole show. My best friend Erin said she likes to just, when she's working, she likes background like voices.
Mm-hmm.
And so she'll just put the whole show on.
Right.
She'll usually like catch up the next day or whatever.
Like, I feel like I want to get someone who like old producer Ryan to put together like a video. Like if you're a new Charlotte listener, there are so many different touch points of things that we do that you can find our content. So it's sort of like on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on the iHeartRadio app.
Honestly, it's a little overwhelming.
It is. So that's why I want some piece that just says, here is everything. So
will even just looking at the piece, will the piece look overwhelming?
No, not if you because I'm thinking of like what they call a sizzle reel, where it's like some of the video stuff that we do. It's all like interspersed with you can find us here, funny moment. Find us here, funny moment. Find us here, funny moment.
Okay.
That's entertaining, but also informative.
Good.
So I have something I've been wanting to share for a minute.
Okay, I can't wait to hear it.
I
just want to let you know my eye is twitching and it's just driving me nuts.
Oh, why?
I've been twitching all show.
Why
is
it twitching?
I'm stressed out apparently. But anyway, so if you're watching the video, my eyeballs being weird. Go ahead, Miguel. I want to know what you've been wanting to talk about.
But before I get there, I just have I'm always watching a million TV shows somehow.
Yeah.
And I have another recommendation for everyone.
Okay.
This is on Paramount Plus, the streaming app.
I have that one. I don't know if I have that one.
I'm about to say I have them all.
Oh, yeah. We had to pick and choose. I don't know if I have it.
I'm like, oh my God. Before I get to that, let's say hi on the Facebook, Miguel and Holly Facebook page. Raven said hello. Melody, hi from Florida. Kelly, I love your full hair, Holly.
Thank you. It was a little wild child today because I had to wash my hair with a shampoo and conditioner in one.
Oh.
That was a bad idea. But anyway.
Sarah, hey, I'm flying into Charlotte tomorrow from St. Pete. Can't wait to actually turn on the radio to hear you again. Yay! Welcome to Charlotte. If you need recommendations on where to eat, let me know. Anne said hello from Tampa. Adrian said hi from the YouTubes. And Julie said, hey, checking in from Florida. So the show that I am recommending to you that is so good on Paramount Plus, it's called The Offer. Now, think about this.
I feel like I've heard about this.
You probably have somewhere. It is, the movie, obviously, The Godfather.
Yeah.
This is the backstory of what it took to actually make the movie.
Yes. I read about this because the movie the movie The Godfather almost never got made.
Girl, it is nuts. And I love a good period piece anyway.
Yeah.
And so interestingly enough, Abe and I just realized that I've never seen The Godfather before.
Oh,
so It's really, so I'm really excited
Gotta
to
really
watch it.
prepare yourself. Wait, do you want to watch the series first or the movie? Maybe you should watch the movie first.
No, I want to watch because like they are assuming, I mean, just the way they're telling the story of like, well, you just have to watch it. You just have to watch it. It's really interesting. But it's like just the producer, Miles Teller, the actor, he's just brilliant as the producer who went from producing this like crazy sitcom from back in the day called Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
And to all of a sudden he goes from that to producing The Godfather. And just like how the mob was involved, how Sinatra didn't want it to happen.
I'm sorry. Like anybody that does not know about Old Blue Eyes, like his last name is not really like, or was that not him? No, but like the only reason, and yes, we all love Frank Sinatra, great pipes. He would not have been Frank Sinatra without his mob ties.
See, I didn't know that. Now, see, that
Yeah.
makes sense because we've always had a joke, Abe, my fiance and I, because whenever we do like dinner parties, I always put on like Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
And then one time, one of the first times I met his parents when they came to visit, and I was about to put on Frank Sinatra, and he was like, no, no, no. Randy does not like Frank Sinatra. He was a liar. He was a cheat. He was a thief. Now, remember, I did not grow up listening to Frank Sinatra music, so
And
I
you're
know
not Italian.
zero about Frank Sinatra, except for once getting into the entertainment industry and learning about it.
Yeah.
And so to me, I'm always like, oh, Old Blue Eyes, the crooner.
Right. The crooner. Yeah, no.
Girl, I was
if
like,
somebody wasn't knocking somebody off to get that man to where he was, you would not have been sitting around at a dinner party listening to Old Blue Eyes.
that's why watching this, I'm like, oh, so that's why Abe's dad doesn't want us to ever play Frank Sinatra when they're here. I get it. But like, if you are a fan of just drama and history, it's super fascinating. But one of the most like, as a entertainer and someone who wanted to be an actor at one point in my life, one of the really cool scenes in the episodes, and this isn't spoiling anything, because obviously the movie got made.
Right.
But
I just don't want the movie. Like, I don't know if watching the movie would give you more context for this show or if it's going to get spoiled at all. But anyway.
no,
go
because
ahead.
it's not about like like the actual details of it, but like, because there's enough. Like, I know Marlon Brando is in it. I know Al
Yeah.
Pacino was in it. Like, those are like cultural milestones that I know.
Al Pacino is like 12 in it. He's so young. Not
Well-
really. Like, he's just such a young man. He's almost unrecognizable.
Well,
But
he
anyway.
almost wasn't in it. Like, he almost by the hair. Like, there had to
Yeah.
be some negotiations to be in it.
Yeah.
Because the studio didn't want Al Pacino in it. But one of the two coolest scenes that I've seen so far is one when they go to Marlon Brando's house.
Okay.
And I can't remember the actor. He's from Grey's Anatomy, but he's playing Marlon Brando. And when he walked down the stairs, Abe, who just finished watching Grey's Anatomy, was like, I'm totally taken out of the show right now. Like, this is not going to be good. But then as soon as he opened his mouth, you were like, oh, shit.
Like, he got into
Like
it.
Marlon Brando.
Oh.
But this, like, I get goosebumps because to me, like, true artists, like, I guess what Marlon Brando was, if I've read up on him more, they're sitting in this house and they're talking to Marlon Brando about the movie, being in The Godfather and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then he just like slowly gets up. He asks his assistant to get him some like shoe polish, and he puts shoe polish in his hair. He puts the paper in his mouth to have that like deep the voice that the Godfather had.
Yeah.
And he starts to speak in that tone. And then the camera pans to Miles Teller and Francis Coppola.
Yeah.
And you see their face as they're like, holy shit, he has embodied the Godfather without even, and he just naturally just like falls into the role. And it was just like that, like it was an artist. Like it was so fascinating.
Yeah.
So after they finally get the cast hired, they Francis Ford Coppola and the producer take them to this dinner for the whole cast to come together as the Corleone family.
Oh man, I got goosebumps.
Like, it's so interesting because the producer, Miles Teller, gives like a little toast, and then everyone starts like standing around looking awkward. And then all of a sudden, Marlon Brando, and remember, they're not filming, this is just them as actors.
Yeah.
He sits down at the head of the table and they all just fall into their parts. And they all just start acting as their different Corleone parts from the movie. And Francis Ford Coppola and the producer are just sitting back drinking wine like, holy shit, this is going to be legendary.
Yeah.
As an artist, I was like, oh my God, like the level of talent to do that and
Not
just
just
to be
talent,
there.
I feel like embodying that culture.
Yes.
Like taking yourself out of you and this moment and putting yourself in a different era, a different culture, a different, whatever, and then it being that reality for right then. It's a little trippy.
Right. And that was one of because I love the after the show little interviews they do after each episode. And that's what the producers of the show were saying, that these actors like Miles Teller, and the other, I feel bad for not knowing their names yet, but the other actors that were playing these parts, that's how talented they are, because they not only had to embody these real people like Marlon Brando and Al Pacino, but then also play them playing their characters as well.
Right. It's like Inception.
Right. And the nuance of it. Oh my God. So anyway, I've gushed about it.
I want to watch that. It's about once every 20 years, I'll watch The Godfather. It's too much almost. We watched it last summer. The 1 and 2. And the first time I watched one, I watched them both. The first time I watched them was like high school, because my mom was like, we should watch The Godfather. And it's weird because I don't remember a whole lot about it in high school, because I was just like, this is a lot. But then when watching it again last summer, it was for someone like me who is an empathetic person who can like feel like the stuff that's happening on TV, like in my body physically. It's a little much. The violence and the trauma is so heavy. It took me several days to get that off. So that's why I'm like, not going to be watching it again anytime soon, because it's too heavy and it takes too long to unload it. But I think specifically for me, because especially in The Godfather, and this is not a spoiler for you, Miguel, because I do want you to watch it. And I hope you do.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a time, especially the second one is like freaking 4 hours, I think. But anyway, before it gets to some of like the absolute, like just heinous violence of it, the scenes where you see them interacting as a family, or even some of like the tense parts, I was like having flashbacks of my family. What they did was encapsulate or like capture so much of, I think, like Sicilian Americans in that time period. A lot of misogyny, sexism, violence, some humor, love through food. And it was just watching it, even down to like little details, like Italian slang that they would throw out, that if you're not Italian and didn't grow up hearing any of that, you would not even notice. But like hearing it, I was like, oh my God, this is like my Uncle Eddie. Like, this is crazy. So on a second level, I'm like intaking all of this. And that's why I'm like, maybe another 20 years I'll watch it. But it truly is. It's so sad. It's so heartbreaking. And I'm not saying like, please understand, like, I'm not saying that, oh, Italian Americans, they had it so rough, or like, look what happened in Italy or whatever. But like, it's if you're not familiar, it's just such a heartbreaking tragedy of generational trauma that never heals. And I mean, I'm still dealing with the generational trauma from those Italians that came through from Sicily a couple generations ago. Still, like through sexual abuse and everything else. So, The Godfather, and I'm glad. I think I might have to watch the show, because The Godfather, what they did was, it was like a real life snapshot of what life looked like.
Right, and that was one of the things that Francis Ford Coppola was fighting for when it came to showing how authentic it was, because the studio at the time, Paramount, they just wanted big names, to play like the Al Pacino character. And he was like, no, you have to understand this culture to get the movie. I mean, and even as down to like, they were fighting over budget, the last episode we just talked about. That's because Francis Ford Coppola wanted to have this whole scene where they were cooking the sauce. And he was like, we need a real stove. And the producer was like, we're not going to build a stove on set. We can't afford that. And he was like, no, you don't understand. This is one of the important cornerstone moments of an Italian family. They got to make the sauce together.
You have to make the sauce. And it's weird. Like I'll go to, I feel like we're on this topic for a long time, but like,
no, I love
for
it.
example, when I was in, we both did musicals in high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes to get into character, one of the high school actors, me, you, whoever was playing whoever, needed a thing to get into the role.
Right.
So like, for example, my good friend Colleen had been cast as the role of Jan in Grease.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw something in her, and she's so funny and she's fantastic. But through all the rehearsals, she was like, okay, but they're like, she's not really hitting this. So as we got closer to the show, the director was like, hold on. And this was not Colleen. Colleen was like, not a hair up kind of girl.
Right.
But our director was like, come here and put your hair in two little pigtails. And as soon as she did it, she was in. Like she was in character. Because, and that's probably like to the show too. But for the movie, you gotta make the actual sauce.
Right.
Because it's like, that takes you into that moment.
That's why I'm like, this show is so good. That's why I'm so ready to like get home and watch it. And
we're just here yammering on about it.
It's so good. So The Offer on Paramount Plus. Anne said, did you both watch The Sopranos? I never watched The Sopranos, but that's like one of the shows that I have on my list of shows that I want to eventually like dig into that I never got into. And Holly, you watched it, didn't you?
I did. I watched it back in the day when it was like on TV, because I don't know how in my college we lived in a house for junior and senior year right off campus, and it was a mistake, very clearly a mistake, but we got like basic cable and HBO, and we didn't want to tell anybody because like we shouldn't have had it.
Y'all were fans of HBO in college?
HBO on accident.
Oh, wow.
So we watched Sex and the City and we watched The Sopranos. And I tell you what, every time we watched The Sopranos, I had to go make pasta because I had to sit down with a big plate of it and just watch. It is also much like The Godfather is. They have these little like slang terms or just how they interact with each other where you're like, oh, that is my family for better or worse. Yikes. But also, I was talking to Boss Man Will, remember? Boss Man Will. And he was saying that he was rewatching Sopranos earlier this year, I think, or maybe late last year. And he's like, you really should rewatch it. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know if I can. Again, the older I get, the more impacted I get by like some of those violent, heavy things. I think it was, I took less of it in when I was younger. And also, I just don't know if I want to jump into that world and sit through all of it again. But it was so good. I mean, that was must-see TV. And that finale, and nobody knew what the fuck was going on. It was crazy. So anyway, yes, watch Sopranos. Always had a big dish of pasta when I ate it. And I thought I was probably too young. I should probably watch it again, even though it scares me like to have that heaviness. But I remember my mom watching it at the time and being like, man, Tony Soprano, something about him. And I'm like 21 and I was like,
what do you mean? Like she was like, oh, hey.
Yes.
Really? Margaret?
Yeah.
Oh, she was like, oh, hey, James Gandolfini.
Like, hey, Tony, how you doing? And I, again, I'm 21 and I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, I appreciate his acting, but no. And then like the older I get, I'm like, I guess I could see it now from an older perspective. What's attractive? And it's probably the power.
Right.
And like that sense of authority. Anyway.
Wow, that's
but yes,
really
I
interesting.
did really enjoy The Sopranos very much.
And Anne said, now James Gandolfini's real life son is playing him in The Sopranos prequel.
That's what I wanted. That's why Boss Man Will was like, you should rewatch it because the prequel is out and I should catch up and then and I'm just like, I don't know. There's just so much. I gotta think about it.
There's so much TV to watch. And Anne Marie says, being 100% Italian, it does get harder to watch, knowing that's how life was, but truly was so accurate. Holly, your vulnerability is admired.
No, thank you. But yeah, it's true. It's so accurate.
And then before I get to the message I want to read to you all, Kelly said, I did moon water intentions last night.
Yay! Me too. Me and Maya did it. So it was really good. It was a good night for it. Big old super moon in Sagittarius.
What I'm really curious is because like right now, our Charlotte fam, I feel like they're in that they're just checking out the show.
Yeah,
and so
very
we
much.
don't like I get messages from a few on Insta.
Yeah.
And like when I check the Miguel and Holly Insta, I see a few messages from like the local Charlotte peeps that are checking us out. But I'm so curious, like what their thoughts are, like when we did that whole segment about the moon water yesterday, because I feel like
I know.
there's no other shows in the city that do stuff like that. So that's why I'm like so curious. But like it's such a big thing with Gen Z and millennials that it's like we've gotten back into sort of zodiac stuff because there was sort of like everyone for a while thought it was like kind of kooky and crazy. And now we're like, well, no, like our bodies and life is pulled by the planets. So why in the world would our emotions and stuff like that not be affected by how the planets align and stuff like that?
Yeah, I just find it very fascinating. I do deep dives all the time, and just if I find it fascinating, there's got to be someone else that finds it fascinating. So that's kind of what we go on. But I'm sure that, I mean, some people are probably like, there's a lot of, I guess, people that I wouldn't assume like that type of spiritual stuff that listen.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they're like, what are you talking about?
Ah!
I try to just make it palatable.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's what our show is about, is bringing different, attitudes, opinions to the table and having a discussion about it,
Yeah.
because just doing the same old celebrity BS just,
Everybody's doing that.
gets boring every day.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the message that I'm, it's not funny. It's more so just, I don't know how to respond to this.
Okay.
So if you are a new Charlotte fan member to the Platypus Posse, by the way, we have a Platypus Posse Miguel and Holly fam Facebook group as well.
Mhm.
Another entry point into the Miguel and Holly world.
A lot.
I was on a HGTV with my husband, Abe, back in April for 100 Day Dream Home. We have a house in Florida that I'm finally gonna get to sleep in it for the first time. And I'm so excited.
It's gonna be awesome.
Oh, I'm so excited. But it aired back in April. And so obviously, if someone checked out the TV show, and like some people do, they Google us and sort of, find out who we are in real life, you will see that now we live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Well, a few weeks ago, I got this message on LinkedIn, and I'm not going to say any of her name or anything. I don't know if she's like someone who just watched the show and sent us this message, or if she is a listener
can you
from
tell-
the area.
She's from which area? You don't have to say her name, obviously, but can you say like Florida, Carolina, like California?
She's in Florida.
Okay.
I'll say that.
So could have been a Miguel and Holly listener from Florida.
Could have been, but not in the Tampa Bay area.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. This is very cryptic.
I don't want to give anything because, like I said, I'm not making fun. I'm not. Let me just read it.
Please just.
Watching rerun of your 90-day dream home build, but you are not in Florida any longer. Wish I wasn't, but unable to recruit volunteer help to help me at the storage unit. I'm homeless, physically challenged. I'm a nobody. Please don't, people don't give a poop about a senior in need. Blessings. And then her name.
Oh.
So I was like, I don't understand. Are you, what?
That there's no, did you just maybe send like thoughts and prayers
because even Abe and I, like, because I legit, like I said, I'm not making fun.
No.
I was just like, I don't understand.
Well, there's something obviously going on. Like, we
Right.
can't say there's not.
Right.
And I don't know what the something is, whether it's it could be so many things, and I wouldn't want to assume. Like,
Right.
it could be a mind-altering substance. It could be a disability. It could be like some sort of cognitive or delirium happening.
Right.
There could be just anything. I think it's clear there's something wrong, but I don't even think that message is requesting anything. I think sometimes what happens in people's head doesn't necessarily make it out into a message, but she must have felt something towards you and wanted to just say something.
Right.
Be heard.
Right.
Be seen.
Because I didn't even know how to respond. And like, usually I can figure out something to say back. And I read it to Abe and he was like, I have absolutely zero clue. And I was like, well, let me bring it here because I'm like, I don't.
Read about the, after she said, because forget everything about the house and you and Charlotte. Start where she actually wants to start.
Wish I wasn't, but unable to recruit volunteer help to help me at the storage unit. Am homeless, physically challenged. I'm a nobody. People don't give a poop about a senior in need. Blessings.
You may be dealing with an elderly woman who's homeless and maybe wants to, move or go to a different place or something like that.
Right.
And I think sometimes people just want to be heard.
Right. Right.
And seen. So you can say, I'm so sorry, because I am sorry that she appears to be in that type of situation.
No, absolutely.
But there's nothing you can personally do.
Right. That's why I was
I want to be seen and heard. And she absolutely deserves that.
Yeah, that's something that I think a lot of times I think about when it comes to older, like baby boomers that are getting to that point in life, especially as my mom is starting to get to that point of talking about retirement. And she wanted to retire this year. And she's like, oh, I guess like once you find out you're like what that looks like financially. And she was like, well, I just might have to work a couple more years.
That's okay.
But it's just so scary to think about, like think about if you are in your 70s now. You were born what, in the 40s?
Yeah, my mom is 74. She was born in 48.
48. Okay, so 40s, 50s, 60s. So like in the 60s, when she was what, in her 20s? Could you even imagine what life would look like now and what type of money you would have needed in the 2000s?
Not only that, but for women, I'm sure she was told repeatedly that she had to find a good husband so that he could take care of her.
Like, how many of those women, like, what if this is one of those women that chose not to do that, but then...
Or did.
Right.
And then they got divorced. He died.
Right.
He left. Like when, oh no, did my internet go out?
Oh, I can still see it.
Okay. Like anything could have happened to knock any part of that plan off course. For women in that era, the plan was get you a husband and make them babies and you'll be taken care of. And then they were not, largely. Because that's not sustainable, but that's what they were sold. So like I feel bad for boomers in that era, because as millennials, like we were sold this whole like get to college and then you'll have this bomb ass career where you're making a lot of money. That was a lie.
Right.
Their lie was, hey, ladies, like just go get you a husband. Make sure you treat him like a king. He'll take care of you and you have some kids and then they'll take care of you and you'll be fine. That was a lie.
Right. So basically all of life is a lie.
It's all a lie.
I mean, nobody could have predicted, like for women at the time, what was going to happen, and that it would be okay for you to be a single woman and to do your life. And if you wanted to have kids on your own, like the thought of, having a kid on your own through whatever IVF or whatever, that wasn't a thing back then, or I remember having a debate years ago online with one of my teachers from high school. And this was like in my like mid to late 20s when I was literally drowning in student loan debt because my paycheck did not cover to pay off at the time rent when we lived together, student loans, living cost.
Yeah.
My money did not literally cover all of that. And I remember one of my teachers on Facebook, and he wasn't, now in 2022 terms, we'd be like, you callous asshole. But this is just who he was because he was from that generation. And he was like, well, you took out the loan. That's your responsibility. And I was like, yes, my responsibility. But as a literal 17-year-old, I did not have any fucking comprehension on what interest meant. I didn't understand that because no one taught me. So how was I supposed to know? And then, even then, the fact that literally a $10,000 loan that I took out in 2007, I'm still paying on today. So you cannot tell me that a 17-year-old understands what that means. I was just like, oh, I need help because I don't have parents that can help me. So this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, nope.
But they didn't understand that either.
We are screwed so many ways from our own government, so many ways. And then the famous last words are, well, this is America. Just figure it out.
Right.
Okay. All right. Cool. There's a bunch of other things. Just
figure it out. It's fine.
Just the government and the law. Can't. Some things I'm irritated about myself, but that's okay.
But it's really fascinating how we, for your mom, this lady's generation, and then our generation. So then it makes you wonder, what are we telling like your daughter who's 8? We think it's good now, but then she's going to get to our age and be like, those fucking millennials, they fucked us. Like,
I know what it is.
What is it?
The unstated fact that we're telling them is truth, that the planet will be sustainable for them to live.
No.
They're going to get to about 40, 50 years old, and it's going to be like one of those dystopian movies where people can't live on Earth, and they're going to be like, you lied. My kid's going to be like, remember you said I could be anything? I'd like to be alive on Earth. Fuck you. Like,
oh, God. Like, where is it?
I guess we can only deal with what we have, but like, it just... I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. And it scares me for her, but also like these kids, they came down during this time for a reason. They're the change makers and the light workers and the star seeds. Now, I'm really crazy, but like they're here for a revolution.
Seed? What is a star seed?
Yeah. Like a being from like the galactic. Okay, let me use less creepy words.
No, please. No, I don't know. I want you to give it to me full. Don't make it palatable. I want you to give it to me like you understand it.
All right. So let's say you have to suspend belief that this soul and this life is it. And when we die, you're either going to go to heaven or hell. Like, we're going to put that belief aside for just a minute.
Okay. Got it.
We're going to go through a little something called maybe like, it's this like similar to reincarnation, but our souls, our energy doesn't just die. It's always moving there. It's consistent. So we came here with the specific purpose of doing something, learning something mostly, or changing something or whatever. So have you watched the movie Soul yet from Disney?
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay. Kind of like that. So the great beyond, right?
Right.
So that's like what happens in between lives here on Earth. So you're up there, like, what lesson did you learn? There's new souls being born, but there's old ones coming through with like lessons and everything. And so based on a couple of different works that I've heard, one of them being Dolores Cannon, when she would do like life regressions on people and go into like a state of hypnosis, and people could say what happened to them while they were in that holding place before they came back to Earth as another body, another human, is you kind of like go over your last life. No judgment, but like what worked, what didn't, what lesson here on Earth did you finally learn? You know, what, and the craziest thing, and this is really trippy to wrap your mind around if you ever care to, is that once you kind of do that soul review, you have your guides, your spirit guides up in, I don't want to say up, but like in this other realm. And, you know, you have your spirit guides and they're like, well, you can ascend to like the highest level of like being if you go and learn some more. And there's other planets you can learn some more stuff on, but Earth is like the best teacher. So the bravest, the most earnest to learn souls, they want to come to Earth because it's so difficult. It's such a tough test to pass. You have to do this contract, though, where you're like, okay, I'm going to Earth. You get to choose everything. You choose your parents. You choose your timeline. You choose what circumstances you're being born into. They show you flashes of this, and they show you like different options, and you're like, you know it's going to be hard. You know, but like your soul is old, so you're like, well, I can deal with that. It's just one blip on Earth. I can handle like some crazy shit coming through. And they're like, you pick all this, and then you jump into that life. But the contract is that you have to forget. You forget all of that and where you came from and what your soul's purpose is. And you just pop out here as a newborn. And here we are talking about predatory student loans, forgetting that we are these eternal beings of love and light here for a purpose. And so many of us just get sucked into like the day to day, like, I hate this job. I'm going to go home and then watch Netflix. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to hate this job. That's not what you're here for. So when I say star seeds, because I forgot that I was going to go down that path, you have these different souls from different areas of this entire expansive universe, right? Souls from maybe other planetary systems or whatever. There's like a whole being of councils, a council of beings, I should say. Like think of the movie Soul, like those people that were like sort of the directors, the cruise directors, if you will. So there are like different, this is just a theory, and I'm not saying I buy into this fully because I'm not as well learned in this aspect, but the star seeds would be these souls from these higher dimensions of other universes, other planetary systems who are pure light, or maybe they're warriors, or maybe they're change makers or whatever. And they are super here instead of just a soul that's just reincarnating, trying to get to its next level. Those souls have a very specific purpose, and they cannot wait to come to Earth because like we are obviously in a time of crisis, and they're like, let me be born now. I can do this. So I say a lot of the this Gen Z maybe starting as super, I think the Gen Alpha that's coming up. You have more of these starseed souls who come from other places knowing that they've got to help raise Earth's vibrations to save our planet and, you know, try to collectively change our consciousness to raise it, to help those beings that are stuck in hate my job, gonna go watch Netflix, hate my job. These star seeds are like, wake up, wake up, wake up. Even if they're not themselves fully woken up, because it's almost impossible to do it as a human. But if you felt like, this is me, like if you've ever felt like, God, there's more. There's more. There's something, I'm missing something, and my traditional religion texts does not even touch or satisfy this deep quest for more that I'm experiencing. Those are the star seeds. Doesn't
Fascinating.
make any sense.
No, it actually made very sense.
I don't even fully grasp all of it myself.
No, it made very sense.
It's hard for me to like, I know what I know, but I'm not used to telling people about it because they're probably like, look, Laura's like, it sounds a little Buddhism. It's a little much. But in Buddhism,
Read
it
it
is.
for the audio.
Laura said, this sounds like Buddhism a bit too, that our energy and soul reincarnate to help people in this time and to work off karma in our past lifetimes. Yes, it does sound Buddhist. I think the difference with Buddhism, because I was fascinated by Buddhism. I took a East Asian cultures course in college, 2 of them, as a matter of fact. I kept all my textbooks because I loved it, which says to me, I had such a deep fascination with Buddhism. At some previous life, I was probably in that religion. I was probably Buddhist. I've also had a deep fascination in my life with ancient Egypt. And that also probably means I'm drawn to it in this life. Like, some people don't give a shit about Egypt,
right?
Would they? But I'm like, I am fascinated by ancient Egypt. I'm fascinated by Buddhism. That probably means that in a past life, that was my thing. Anyway, so when Laura says it sounds a little bit Buddhist, it is. But where it differs is your last line is you reincarnate to work off karma from your past lifetimes. It's less working off what you did in the past because it's not keeping score necessarily in that way. It's all about, it's not like you were bad, now you got to do good. It's not like this balance where you're putting like, trying to keep the scales even.
Right.
It's more about learning and knowledge. And like when you do the life review, allegedly, per Dolores Cannon, it's a non-judgmental look back at, okay, this thing probably didn't make the right choice there. No judgment, but you did learn this from that choice.
Right.
And maybe your path you thought was going to be this way, but that didn't happen. Now, obviously, I don't know what that means in the form of like serial killers or whatever. I don't know. I have not yet, because I was like, well, I mean, obviously there is evil in the universe, but I'm not ready to talk about all that. I don't know about it. But yeah, it's got some roots in Buddhism, because I think that Buddhism is one of the religions, cultures that speaks to that side of the spirituality form of the balance of this universe.
If someone is curious about reading more into this, what would be the first entry point that they could sort of do some research into? Or like a book or a Twitter account or an Instagram? Or
the thing that I found is that there's not just one. I've had to like aggregate information from different sources, and weirdly, I do find a lot of them on TikTok. But the TikToks will lead me down different rabbit holes. So if you happen to get onto that TikTok area, like that sort of thing. But I will say,
what hashtag do you do to get down that one on TikTok?
You know what? If you just start by doing a little Google search on Dolores Cannon's work, Dolores Cannon, Starseeds, stuff like that, it's so hard because there's not like one thing I can tell you, but like that's when you can start finding stuff.
An entry point into it. And just to go, oh, okay, well, here's something I can, if I'm curious about this, I can at least Google that. And then from there, you can go about it, whatever way that you want to go.
Hang on, Canon books, because I think it's called The Journey of Souls. Hold on a minute. She has a ton. I don't know. But look up Dolores Cannon, or look up A Journey of Souls. I think that's something else. And then things got really interesting when I read that book. I talked about it like a year and a half ago on this podcast. It was called, hang on a second. I'm going to look it up. Escaping from Eden. Yep. Then I read, and this is kind of one of the things that I picked up in the very beginning of my journey. It's called Escaping from Eden. And it talks about how there's some inconsistencies in the Bible. I mean, all the way back into Genesis. And this guy was a pastor, like a preacher, and had a couple very basic questions about a particular passage in Genesis, and nobody could answer it satisfactorily for him. And so he started pulling at that thread and was like, and all it did was just open up like all these crazy theories, because he's like, because there is no good answer for this one question, I got to start looking at alternative explanations.
Mm.
So Escaping from Eden, I read that book. And the first half is like super, I was like tearing through it. And then it gets a little dense toward the second half. And I was having a hard time keeping up.
Mhm.
But it's also good in talking about just what else might be out there, like the soul thing, and how we might have received help as a planet or whatever. But that's a whole different. So those are a couple of the ones that I just looked into.
There you go. People can do
I'm
their
trying
own
to
research and just figure it out.
Yes. And I just wanted to also quickly, because I usually like star the TikToks I give them a heart for the ones that I like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try and see if there's any no, I don't know. I'll think about it. And maybe at the beginning of next podcast, I'll have some more resources.
Okay, perfect. All right, Holly, what's your social media?
Radio Holly, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram.
Mine's Miguel Fuller. There's also the Miguel and Holly Instas. There's also the Hits of 961. And of course, as we sprinkle throughout, there's so many different
touch points,
content touch point ways to get involved with the Platypus Posse, the Miguel and Holly fam. Until Friday, leave us a 5-star rating. If not, F off. Bye.
Miguel and Holly Uncensored.
Catch it on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere you listen to podcasts.